Good evening and welcome to the regular scheduled Hibbing City Council workshop for October 1st, Wednesday, 2025. Okay, we have on discussion items, we start first with number 1, sewer and sanitation budget presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet.
So I will start with reviewing the sewer fund. We'll start with revenues and expenditures, then capital request on the bottom line analysis, and we'll do the same for the sanitation fund after. So sewer fund revenues, we had budgeted $4.2 million for last year. In 2026, we have anticipated revenues of $4,522,500 for a total increase of $364,500 or 9%. This is comprised of biosolids disposal contracts being increased to $35,000 versus $20,000 in the prior year. Interest revenue, we budgeted, we realized we weren't adding that in the budget, so we accounted for that this year. Sewer charges, $4,090,000, an increase of $255,000 from prior year. And then stormwater utility fee, $322,500, an increase of $19,500. For the last two items, this increased a 6% from 2024's actual activity to account for the 2024 updated sewer rate study. Sewer fund operating expenditures for the waste treatment plant, we had a 9% increase, mainly from the BPS, medical insurance, the new Minnesota paid leave tax, and then operating supplies. Waste collections increased 6%, base pay structure, medical and work comp insurances, Minnesota paid leave tax, and the operating supplies. Debt service decreased 14%. We paid off one of our loans in 2025. Depreciation expense increased 15%, mainly due to 2024 added building improvements and equipment assets. OPEB increased 38%. We had one retiree in December of 2024. And then the bottom line total increased 6%, mainly through the BPS, medical insurance, and operating supplies and depreciation. I will let Dave Hurd talk about waste treatment plant capital requests.
Mayor, council members, this year I would like to, 2026, I'd like to rebuild 2 of our lift pumps in our filter building, which we installed in 2013. One of them, there is a noticeable wobble in it, and I feel that it won't make another year. And the other one is just starting to do that. You can get anywhere from 10 to 20 years out of those pumps. It just varies. So I'm trying to budget to replace both of those, or kind of a tight timeline to do that, so it'd be back to back, probably starting in November of this year to get them done before spring. The next thing would be some blower safety shut off equipment, and that it hooks up to your bearings on your main blowers for the plant, and if they go out of tolerance and they start wobbling a little bit, it automatically shuts that blower down so you don't grenade the blower. So it'd save you a lot of money in the long run if you can avoid having those catastrophic failures with your blowers. And the last thing would be to finish our outdoor lighting project. We had previously invested, I think it was around $12,000 in outdoor lighting, and I'd like to do the rest of it. With us working 24 hours a day in the springtime, it helps to have good lighting out there.
Dave, where would that lighting go?
It would replace the existing hot halogens with LEDs.
All right. So it's not putting new lights in?
Nope, just replacing old ones,
Okay.
updating them. And that would be it for our capital requests. And then the other stuff is the waste collection, and Jesse's gonna do that.
So Mayor, Council, next sheet, waste collections. So we have 2 lift stations next year for rehabilitation, Filman Station. We did piping in that lift station in 2019. We need to update the pumps and controls. 427 41st Street, that's by the Dairy Queen. We did new piping in 2017 on that one. Same thing, replaced pumps, controls on that lift station. Both of those are about $75,000. And then we'd like to add a generator on the Philman Addition lift station, gen set there for $33,500. So after we do this, we'll have 5 lift stations left to rehabilitate out of our 18, and we'll have 3 lift stations that just need pumps, and I think 2 lift stations that just need control boxes, so new electrical controls up top. Then for our sanitary sewer lining, we have $550,000 included for that. And we'll look at the areas, we'll hit 41st Street, that neighborhood, that'll be included in that project. Any questions on waste collections?
Our pumps now, all are with the 18, and you said a few yet to still finish upgrading. Have we upgraded all our pump systems, so they're all similar right now?
Yeah, so we've been going with flight pumps.
Okay,
VFD pumps, very well frequency
Yeah.
drive pumps. So that's what we've been doing in all of our lift stations.
any questions for Mr. Story? All right.
All right, so our sewer fund bottom line, just as a summary, revenues increased 9% based off of updated rates per the 2024 sewer rate study, plus accounting for the interest revenue. And operating expenditures increased 6% mainly through the BPS, medical insurance, operating supplies, and depreciation. So the bottom line is a net deficit, but that decreased 20%. So mainly through the increase in revenue from updated rates and then the expenditures mentioned above. Any questions about sewer?
Yes, Mr. Krasinski, did you have?
Anybody else?
No, I was,
Okay, sorry, put your hand up. So, thank you for the presentation, appreciate that. So, the one thing that Dave, Jesse, and I had talked about, and I know we've talked about the effluent from the generating station and how to handle that. And Dave, did you have a chance to gather that information for the generating station effluent? Are you able to talk about it just from a higher level this evening? And while he's coming up to the podium, remember we have talked about the effluent and how much of that goes to our wastewater treatment facility. Remember, that's a fairly fresh water, so there's a fair amount of treatment that has to happen, and it's a lot of volume. So remember, we installed a meter 2 years ago now, so we've got 2 years of data. I don't remember the numbers, and if you don't have them, we can do a follow-up. What I'm really asking is, how do you want us to move forward with that effluent? Is that something that we need to start talking to our commission about, and how do you want to handle that? I mean, status quo versus do we need to start collecting for our wastewater treatment facility? So, Dave, if you can give us kind of the high-level analysis, and then we can go on from there.
so the water coming from the power plant, ranges throughout the year depending on, how much steam they're producing, but it ranges from anywhere from 90,000 a day up to maybe 150,000, 140,000 a day. So when you add all that up, it's a large volume of water that gets sent down there, and it's relatively clean water. So, we're treating water that's pretty much already clean.
Is that cooling water, is that what that is?
Blow down water.
Blow down.
It's blow down water, it's the reverse osmosis, reject water.
Okay,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, but I think there's some storm drain from the roof that go into that also. I hope not. I think there is one spot where.
Good answer. But there probably is.
Yes. Yes, and that's a limited amount on those. And then there was a little bit from the memorial building for their return. That wasn't huge amounts, but I don't know exactly how much that was off the top of my head.
So Dave, with varying from 9,000 to 150,000.
90,000.
90,000, okay,
Yes.
90,000. all right.
Yes,
So you could find a happy medium, and that'd give you a pretty good estimate on
yeah, so,
365.
yeah, and our average flow is, you know, in the wintertime, our average flow is probably like 1.9, maybe 2 million a day. So if you're getting an extra 50,000 from them,
10%.
you're over 10%, yeah, you're over
Yep.
10% for that.
Okay,
you know.
So, I know we've talked about it at least once a year since I've been here, so, the question is, do we want to maintain status quo? Do you want a deeper dive on the report and what that costs us?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just lead on it because we've talked about it a number of times. I think if we're gonna dive into any of that, we need to do all shared services between both entities because that would be the right thing to do.
And that is kind of the overall goal. From my office, I want to know those numbers, and that's what we set out to do. The generating station, memorial building, I know the streetlights, there's a question and a quid pro quo there. Sanitation doesn't get billed back to HPU, and there's some other stuff in there. That's what we set out to do, is know those numbers. I think there was a study that was done at some point on the power for the streetlights. I don't think that study was a metered study. It was we're missing 7% of the power. It's probably the streetlights, which, I mean, if we're gonna do it, then we're gonna have the actual analysis done, and we're gonna know what the numbers are, not an estimate. But that's the conversation.
Yeah.
you know, personally, I feel you need all the numbers. You gotta have the facts, before I would make a decision on anything. I'd like to know. I do have one question. With all our lining we're doing, how much is that reduced? We're about halfway through right now in our lining,
We're about a third.
about a third. Okay, how much is that reduced?
So, when I first started, I wanna say our average flow is like a 2.2, 2.3 million.
And we're down to 1 point,
We're down to maybe 1.9,
okay,
2.
so it's made a
somewhat.
difference.
So, yeah, there's a significant amount of I&I that, you know, water,
All right.
that's not coming down there.
Yep.
So that you can actually see it. One thing I really noticed is that if we have a rainstorm, it used to be 45 minutes to an hour, you would have to be down at the plant, because that's when the water would really start coming in. Now we're 2+ hours out, so it's taken that much more longer to get down there, and we don't have the massive flows that we
Okay.
had before.
All right, I'm just trying to put everything in perspective, and that's why, you know, I know we're trying to reduce that amount for you to save on our costs. So.
It's also a mandate, by the way.
What's that?
It's also a mandate.
Yes.
Freshwater infiltration is a mandate
Right,
to eliminate. I just wanted to say one additional thing, and maybe Dave, you can comment on this. In addition to the water, there's a reduction in the amount of grit and silt that goes through the system, and maybe Dave,
Yep.
you can comment on that and the costs associated with that.
Yeah, so before, whenever you got any kind of rain event, you would have to go down in the channels and hand dig all the sand out of there, you know, and it'd take you all day, you know, 2 guys all day to haul it all out. And probably the last 5 years, we haven't seen hardly anything, you know, as far as a large amount of grit that came down the system like it used to. You know, I think.
what you said is Mr. Story started in the right areas of the city for lining.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, in having the sewer inspections on your house,
Yes,
you know, on your laterals from your house, I think is a big help, because you're looking for all the I&I spots that you can find.
Yeah.
Well, you can have up to 50% of your I&I is from the house out to the main. So, yeah, I think it'd just get better over time as we do more and more inspections.
good.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
and I'm sure, Jesse, the EPA has said what a great job the city of Hibbing has been doing.
They just kind of come out and do their inspections, and they really don't say anything like that, no.
Right. However, you have made an impact across the Iron Range going to CDBG and doing the lining where other cities are starting to follow suit, so thank you for that.
absolutely. All right, I have no more questions. Anybody else?
Thank you, David.
So I think the directive, what I heard then, is more information.
Yep.
Let's get some facts and then take a look at it.
Yep, on the city side, we've got the analytics put together. We'll do a detailed report on it for
Yep.
you.
Very good, thank you, Dave. We'll move on to redevelopment project updates.
Not quite.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We still have sanitation. Yep.
Yeah,
So, for sanitation revenues, we have 2025 budgeted 3,018,000 and 2026 anticipated revenues of 2,380,000 for a total decrease of 638,000 or 21%. We added interest revenue here as well of 100,000. Refuse customer charges is remaining the same as last year, and for refuse other, that decreased 738,000 from prior year. So the city's no longer gonna be charging the landfill operation fees on the utilities, so the county will be billing that.
okay.
So that's where the reduction, but it's an in and out, so. And right now, we're currently reviewing service design for efficiencies to reduce costs, so no rate increases are planned as of this time. For operating expenditures, sanitation fund decreased 22% since we're no longer paying the St. Louis County operation fees. The recycling center reduced 3% mainly from operating supplies and repair and maintenance labor. Depreciation expense increased 7% from additional capitalized equipment. OPEB decreased 4% based off of retiree changing coverage. So bottom line decreased 17% mainly from the St. Louis County operation fees being removed. And I'll let Jesse talk about capital requests.
So the capital request for the sanitation fund, the first item is the 2026 side loader garbage truck for 425,000. This will replace the 2016 Rapid Rail. So this truck picks up the 95-gallon residential cans, the 300-gallon big plastic cans in the alleys. What we're moving towards is right now we have 4 styles of trucks. We have the side load Rapid Rail. We have a side load that picks up the 2-yard commercial cans and the cardboard cans. And then we have a front load that does commercial, and then we have a rear loader that picks up the demo stuff. So what we're looking towards is having a front load truck and having a Rapid Rail side load style truck to pick up the residential and the 300-gallon cans. Then we'd always have the rear loader just because we do demo stuff. So that's what we're trying to get rid of or get away from the side load steel cans, the 2-yard, and just kind of reduce our fleet. So if we have one truck that can do multiple things instead of one truck that does each separate thing. We also have 95-gallon containers, 427 95s for $40,000. And then 100 300-gallon cans, those are the blue ones you see in the alleys that are replacing the 2-yard steel containers. Ordering another 100 of those. Currently we have about 170 2-yard steel load side cans that need to be replaced with the 300-gallon side load cans for that other style truck. So we're currently working on that. I think we just got 100 of them in, and we're gonna order another 100 to get caught up with those. So that's the plan.
Is that, so our side loaders will take the 95 and
Correct.
the bigger ones?
Yep, they do now. So you can order them with different arms. So
Okay.
they'll pick up a 65, a 95, up to a 400-gallon container. But we have 300-gallon.
Okay. And the opening on the top of the truck
Yep.
is
All the
big
same.
enough for all?
Yes. Yep. And we've demoed a couple new, Joe, our fleet manager, he's done a really good job looking at different equipment, looking at the best equipment. He's demoed a couple different style of garbage trucks. So, yeah, he's on top of the actual equipment that we need to get the job done, and doing it with the most efficient way. And then we need the 6-yard front steel containers. These are for the front load commercial cans. I think we have 20 of these budgeted. This is for businesses, schools, our industrial parks. The areas we cannot put the commercial garbage into the 300s, and the 2 yards are too small. So that's where we use these 6-yard front load steel containers.
And then for the sanitation fund bottom analysis, revenues decreased 21% from the landfill fees mostly. Operating expenditures decreased 17% from the same reason. And bottom line looks like a very big number, but it's just the changes in the percentages. But mainly, it's contributed by the BPS, medical insurance, operating supply, and St. Louis County tipping fees. Any questions on sanitation?
Counselors, any questions for Josie?
And that's it.
Yes.
Oh.
Administrator Brzezinski?
So if I may, just bring you back to the sanitation fund revenues. Currently reviewing service design. At this point, no rate increases are planned, which is relatively true, but we have been trying to realign some of those dumping fees to what we're charging our customers. So there could be some small nuanced changes. Mattresses, I think, comes to my mind. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yes, we had an employee bring to my attention, so when we charge for mattress pickup, box spring pickup, we charge $12 each, and we get charged $20 each at the dump. So try to realign some of that stuff. Like the administrator said, we have, in the commercial district, we have, we're trying to align what commercial customers are paying for to what they're compared to getting dumped. So we charge on the per yard. We're trying to align, making sure they're either not paying too much and they're getting dumped only a couple times, or vice versa, they're only paying a little and they're getting dumped more than their scheduled pay. So we're trying to align that, go through the schedule. There's a lot of commercial properties, so we're trying to get through that.
So I just wanted to make that statement, so when and if we do come back with some of those nuanced changes, that doesn't catch you by surprise, but my apologies for not keeping you in the loop on that, Josie.
No, you're good.
All right, with that being said, any other questions? Thank you so much, Josie.
Thank you.
Now, we can move on to Ms. Olivanti.
Yes.
Regarding redevelopment project updates.
Excellent. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, I just wanted to give a quick update on some of the redevelopment projects going on around town, just simply because there's a lot going on, and I want to make sure that you had a chance to ask questions, if you had any. The first item I wanted to mention is for Highland Hills, there will be a presentation at the council workshop on October 15th, bringing forward the concepts and the costs to you. As promised, I believe it was in June or July of that meeting. So that's going to be coming forward, and you will have a presentation, and you'll have that in your packet as well as being presented live at workshop. First project for redevelopment is the Iron Exchange at 400. Right now I'm working with the developer on the financials, working with Michaela Hewitt from Baker Tilly and Gina Fiorini from Kutak Rock are working with staff. They should be hiring their general contractor by the end of this week, early next. And from there, we'll refine their total project costs. Those refined financials will come to city staff. We will review them with our municipal advisor, and then we'll set up meetings with the local funding partners to start working on filling that gap. Part of that will be looking at the assessment with our county assessing team and starting that work with them through total project costs, fits and finishes, and how the construction, et cetera, of that particular building will be done. All of those things will allow us to really get that financial package together to have something to put forward for an IRRR housing grant. Hopefully, they're going to have their next meeting in December, so we will be working with them in November to get all of the documents and questions that they have answered prior to that meeting. We are also, you heard from Andy tonight, incorporating that 507 East Howard Street building, the old Able Chiropractic, into the demolition of the 400 block. Those bids are due back on October 6th at 2 p.m. We have had several good conversations and lots of folks taking tours of those buildings. So we're hoping for a good return on that request for bids. And we will open them on October 6th at 2 p.m. here at City Hall in the second floor conference room. Any questions on the Iron Exchange at 400 so far?
The only one comment I want to make is people should know how well we've utilized these buildings. They're going to be taken down by our fire department.
Yes.
Local fire departments, even Duluth was up to get real-world experience of fighting fires in buildings of that type. So, I mean, for I think 2 or 3 weeks, the fire department has engaging many fire departments in training, and to take that lead, I think it's a credit to you and the city allowing the fire department to actually do that type of work in there. It's something they don't get that opportunity to do, so I just want to say thank you for making that available to them.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing that forward. I talk about it so much at the EDA meetings, I forget that you may all not know. Captain Wanarovitz from the Hibbing Fire Department has taken the lead on setting up some real-world training in downtown buildings with the full support of Chief Jankala. And so we worked with Finance Department, Legal, and all the folks necessary to make sure that they could get permission to enter those buildings. And they started training at the end of September and have been will train all the way through the end of October. To the mayor's point, they are bringing in all of our mutual aid departments plus. So it's a really great opportunity to train in a downtown building, which is something they don't typically do. Most training these days is done in Connex boxes and those sorts of things, so it's just not the same. The nice part too is we have a fully constructed, meaning fully furnished out in the 402 building, and then the 410, 412 is fully deconstructed down to the studs, so they can see the construction right from brick wall out. And that's been super helpful to them. And again, Captain Wanarovitz is running with that project and doing a really great job taking care of that. So thanks for reminding me to bring that up. Yes?
I'm curious, has there been any talk, or can there be talk about that 400 block development using the heating district?
At this point, we haven't had that conversation, I don't think.
So, I mean, I know we've missed opportunities for this in the past, and kind of like you do the HEDA meetings, and maybe we don't all understand everything that happens there. On the utility side of things, anytime there's a development like this is an opportunity for us to right-size steam rates, get lower electrical rates by utilizing that district heating system the right way. So should be part of the conversation if it hasn't been brought up. And if that means we need to bring somebody from HPU in there to at least explore that and let them know what they have for options, that'd be a good move. So.
Absolutely. So I will just note, we have been coordinating with Hibbing Public Utility staff on the demo. Having the conversations have been running right through the staff over there to make sure that the cutoffs and the necessary, task level things are done, because we've had several questions from contractors about that. I will mention this to our design team and redevelopment team that's working on the next stage.
Perfect.
And make sure that they have that
I appreciate
conversation. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Anything else on that one? Okay. The actual third project I'm talking about tonight, Nortec. These are the FINA property that was purchased as a secondary site for public safety on the Beltline. Andy has been working with Bolton and Mank on finalizing that survey. There were some questions between the original plat and the survey. He's been working on that. I finally saw some more correspondence come through this week, so it looks like that'll be getting finalized here shortly. From there then, the request for redevelopment that I had put in front of you, I believe it was last spring, will be sent out with that information, where the buildings could be separated if the developers chose to only purchase one, that sort of a thing. And once that request for development goes out, we will probably be doing tours and things of that nature for those buildings to move that forward. Right now, it's running roughly $3,000 on average a month, Sheena, for utilities and operations expenses. However, we are starting to utilize those buildings a little bit for public works right now to store some things, et cetera. So the buildings are being utilized at this point, which is a good thing to move forward. And I'm in I'm in connection with the folks that are using it so that we can keep it open for tours and those sorts of things. So we'll just keep moving that forward, hopefully having something in front of you this winter. I do have 2 different folks who have expressed interest in those properties now. So they're waiting for that request for redevelopment to come out. Any questions on that one? All right, excellent. Fourth now, the Dolans property, we closed early in September. I'm working to find what our options are to move forward on that. We figure we have 3 of them. One is to have a renter in there. Second would be to just mothball it, shut off all the utilities, et cetera. And the third would just be to start making plans to demo it right away. Wanted to get your feedback on the various options. The rental agreement we would work with Sheena to figure out what are the utilities, et cetera, what kind of costs could we expect on average throughout the year to make sure that the rents and those sorts of things cover all of the costs that would be associated with the particular building while we wait and go through the pre-development work, which is surveying, topo, phase 1, all of those things to get it ready for the developers that have called us about that. I have 2 folks looking at that property as well. But they won't be ready to do anything for about a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years as we move that forward. So any thoughts on if we're going in the right direction with 3 different options and to bring those back to you
Can
at
you,
the next meeting?
Betsy and myself, I guess I'd like to see the numbers again, just
Yep.
before I could make a decision.
Yep, that will all come
You know,
forward.
I think any of those are all good options. It's just what is the feasibility of one over the other?
Yep.
And,
Good. So we'll just bring you back numbers and things at the October 15th meeting. I just wanted to make sure that you were prepared to look at a couple of options and sort of select something at that time, that it wasn't brand new information, so.
all right.
All right, excellent. On the 1111 7th Avenue East building, Yoder requested a delay through the end of October for the closing with the EDA board. It was approved at the September meeting. They're working on getting information to me for the financing package. They may be looking at a little bit of EDA funding, but they will be requesting an IRRR commercial redevelopment grant, so we're working with them on that. The rest of the funding will come through private financing. It'll be almost a $2 million project by the time they're done through purchase and renovations of that building. So they are doing their due diligence and really putting some time and effort into that. Towards that end, then Jason has everything moved out of the building, so AMGS is fully moved into the new building, and they are testing the ovens and things to get full production up and running, hopefully by next week is the plan. They had a couple of pieces from the old oven that were still in that parking lot, but everything has been moved out of the building. So he's right on track with what was expected there, which is excellent. And then finally, the Jefferson School site, Hibbing Parents Nursery is in there through the end of October. The relocation and the renovations at their new site, which will be at the Abundant Life Church, are moving along really well as of this week. So the fence has gone up, they've got the new door in, the other various items that they need to get to qualify for licensure in that new building will be taken care of, they figure by the end of October. So they're comfortable with moving forward with that and are excited to get into the new location. And we've been working really closely with them on that. Right now, that 2810 Diane Lane is undergoing a shovel-ready pre-development work. So we will keep the utilities on through a little bit into November, assuming everything goes fine, to make sure that we can get the hazmat report from there redone, because the original one was misplaced. So we will have all of that stuff done by the end of November, and then the goal there is to go out to deed for a redevelopment grant to take that building down on February 1, to start moving that project forward to potential housing sites as planned. Any other questions on, that was 6 different projects tonight, so a lot coming at you. Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Roa, Memorial Building insurance claim.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just wanted to give you an update on where we're at with the insurance claim of the League of Minnesota Cities on our steam leak at the Memorial Building that happened over the summer. Just a reminder, it was a valve in the main electrical engine room that failed and filled the entire room up with steam for a long weekend over the 4th of July weekend. Since then, we've had multiple engineers, and the adjuster came and took a look right away, within the week that it happened. Asked us to go out and get bids and quotes for worst case scenario and get the process moving. That's where we initiated that emergency declaration on that to speed it up. When that came back and we gave him our quotes and everything, it came in multiple $1 million, couple $1 million worth of damage. And since then, they have kind of, I guess, wanted to take their own look at things. So they've been sending up their own investigative engineers and electrical engineers, mechanical, and looking at the plant, everything like that. In the meantime, we know that we're not going to get a project done this fall, lead times and everything on equipment and everything. Commercial refrigeration and B32 Engineering is who we've been working with on this. We did a soft startup to see where we're at. We had a few issues here and there on the hockey ice plant, but we got that to where we're comfortable now and for startup next week, or Monday actually. And our curling club compressor is a separate system. We are having issues there. We are anticipating a full replacement of that compressor and motor and everything on the curling club. We're gonna have to do that most likely next summer. When they went to do the startup, everything is so corroded and rusted in there from the steam damage that they broke off a part of the drive shaft and whatnot, getting into the motor to get it going. And so it doesn't pay to replace just the drive shaft on that motor or on that compressor. It already is a 30-year-old compressor with high hours on it anyway. So they suggest don't even mess with that. We can band-aid it together to get us through this curling season, but it is going to need a full replacement on that motor compressor next summer, most likely. Long story short, we're still waiting for that final determination from the insurance company. Like I said, again, they were here on Monday, and they were supposed to have their final report to the insurance company in the next week and a half, and then that will in turn come back to us to finalize what they feel the scope of work should be. So once we see that, we can take a look at it with our team and you all and see how we respond to that or where it comes in at. So again, it's very time sensitive. Our contractor, Commercial Refrigeration, is confident that he can get through the season with everything we have in place. He's got backup motors, backup pumps. He is confident that he can get us through the hockey season and curling season, and then anything we do will be next spring, next summer, and but that impacts summer ice and things like that too. So we already have people wanting to book summer ice, summer camps. So it's imperative that we get a determination. If we're going to be down, we got to let these people know so they can plan ahead. So it's been very frustrating. We haven't been able to really do what we want to do. We've been just cleaning up a little bit, but until we get that final determination of what's covered, what's not, and how this is all going to turn out, we haven't done much in there. So we are starting up Monday. We are starting the plant up Monday. We're putting in ice starting Tuesday. So that's the update on that. So, any questions there?
Nick, cause, that's a main steam valve that blew. And any idea what caused it? I know water hammer or whatever, what caused it? Do you, any,
I'm not sure, but I would imagine a water hammer during the rain event right before the 4th of July. Seems to be a possibility, but, yeah, I don't know. It blew at the bottom of the valve, the main steam valve coming in the bottom, or coming into the building.
the other components, you mentioned the mechanical components. You also have all the electrical components in that. Can you respond or give me an update on that also?
Correct, yeah, the electrical components, you know, the thing is, we had a 30-year-old ice plant that is, you know, designed for 30 years, but it performed like a 15 to 20-year-old ice plant.
Yeah.
It's been taken care of, and the electrical and everything. We had a very good system that we could get another 10 to 15 years out of. This puts us right back to 30 years, you know, I mean, you walk in there and it's really depressing, because we had one of the nicest ice plants in the state for all that, and with the room and the equipment that we had in there, now we're back to a 30, 40-year-old ice plant that needs a lot of work. The electrical, it's hard to say. There is some corrosion. There is some corrosion from water, but there is some corrosion just from old age and you know, being a 30-year-old system. But we replaced a couple. We're going to have to replace a couple of VFDs that have burnt up and whatnot. A couple motors for sure on, you know, the air handling system up in the ceiling. You know, the ammonia detection system, that's all got to be replaced eventually. And some of those safety features. That's the biggest thing, is the safety in that room. Every pipe is now corroded, and it's all ammonia system, and you can't have corroded pipes and corroded valves and corroded everything on a steam system like that. So it's definitely a safety issue. So I'm hoping, you know, the League of Minnesota Cities sees that as well, and you know, we get a favorable outcome out of this. So.
All right?
Can I do one more while I'm up
Yes,
here?
yeah.
So Jesse and I had a quick chance to meet today with Barry and Jenny Braun from the Speedway. Just a quick little wrap up of the season. He's still got 2 more races. He's got this weekend and next weekend of enduros, but we just did a high level overview of how the season went, and you know, it's kind of where he anticipated it. He anticipated, you know, running at a deficit this year with the startup costs and things that he had to put forward with his own money to get back up and going. So there wasn't any real surprises. He's got some ideas for some changes next year as far as, you know, events and make. It seems like the bigger events, like the showcase events, obviously make more than the regular nightly, what do you call them, regular races. The weekend races are running at a deficit, but the you know, the main shows make up for some of that. He's got some ideas on how to add additional main events and things like that, doing possibly a Memorial Day shootout, a 2-day thing there, a week long of events during the Jubilee week, all different categories of events that week, blowing that up into a 5-day event. And you know, obviously the Labor Day shootout, and then extending again into, as long as he can go into October. He's even talked about maybe doing some enduro ice races this winter and stuff to try and make up for some of those losses that are happening throughout the year. But yeah, one of the biggest things we talked about briefly was the camping situation and how to, you know, if we're gonna have a few more of these weekend events, where can we park some campers? In the college, it has come to us and asked that no more camping in the college lots and on their property, just, which is understandable, totally get that. So we're just looking at alternatives for where we can park some campers, and we're looking at the north side of the pits, up by the recycling center and kind of towards Vic Power, in that that grass area up there where there's a sewer line and stuff up there. He's done some investigative mowing up there along with where we mow currently, and seeing if there's some spots up there to make a road and back in some campers. But we're gonna come, hopefully maybe the next workshop with maybe of a concept layout of what we're thinking, and see if how that looks, and if we can make that happen possibly for next year to help with some of the camping situations and get them off the roads, get them off the college lots and somewhere back there, so.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Arola?
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, at this time we move on to the HPU resolution.
Yeah.
Mr. Krasinski.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I know I sent out an email yesterday afternoon following our rating call with S&P Global. They had some questions about HPU debt load, repayment of it. So I wanted to have a conversation, report to the city that, and then have a conversation with City Council. Sheena's gonna have a stake in this, as will Jesse, when it comes to some of the upcoming projects. But I'd like to start with this sheet here. It just came to my attention from the commission chair, Mr. Bayless, that our commission hasn't seen this yet. And I never like to get out ahead of commissions and councils that haven't seen the information. So I would extend my apology to you as the chair and the commission and Luke as the general manager. The reason I included it is it does kind of like give us a pathway and give us a feel for what kind of debt load that we're looking at. I can remember back in 2022, I think the high-end debt for the water build-out was about 71 million, 75, something like that, which this is pretty consistent with kind of that overall build-out. But the point is I did not mean to get out ahead of our commission, so my apologies for that.
Can I just say something on that note? I think that number you're talking about was like full replacement of the water system, if I'm not mistaken.
That could be.
Is that correct, Luke? Okay. Like, that's not just the water stuff that we have in one building, other, that's replacing everything. Okay, just to clarify. We don't plan on financing all that right now.
Well, and I mean, that'll be part of this conversation
Yeah.
too. I mean, I understand that these numbers aren't 100% financed, but a portion will have to be, because that's just the way that it works. So remember, we're placing some debt for our public safety building. 19.8 million, I think, is the number. So as part of that process, you go through a rating call. There's a third party that comes in. Lots and lots of questions, financial, economy, you know, kind of what's going on in your community, et cetera. So that happened yesterday. That call was about 45 minutes long. About 10 minutes or so of that was spent on just HPU, the debt, the relationship, how it works in the event of a default. What I took away from that conversation was they look at what we're doing with this resolution as the city's taking that debt responsibility on, which we are in the event of a default. It raised a lot of eyebrows. I understand that at our last meeting, when the HPU was here asking for us to take action on this resolution, there were some questions about what does this mean? How does it work in the event of a default? Commissioner, you and I talked about it yesterday. I mean, I think you have some questions as well. So that's kind of the backdrop and the tee up. Sheena, I think I'm gonna kick it to you for some additional conversation about the rating call. I know I missed some of the details, so I'll put it to you, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about kind of that overall where we're going and a pathway forward. So if you would.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. So, yep, we had a rating call yesterday with S&P Global. They did recently change their methodology for rating, and there's 5 different parts to it, and 20% is for each of them. 20% is the city's overall debt profile. And so what they're looking at with our overall debt profile is how much debt do we pledge our GO towards. That would include the Hibbing Public Utilities, because they're a component unit of the city. So they looked at what we already have outstanding on the books, but then they also asked about future financing arrangements that we're planning to do within the next 12 months primarily. So we did bring up the $6.5 million, knowing that Tammy did come speak and that they were looking to have this resolution brought forward. They came forward and asked me what the expected rate increases would need to be to cover that. So I was thinking back, or trying to recollect in my mind back to when the last time we talked about their water rate study, which we had that joint meeting back in March. So I had handed out just what I had received from the joint meeting back in March from Baker Tilly, where the PUC had said that the rate increase for residential would be 5.33% year over year, and commercial would be 5.96% year over year. So I did reach out to Tammy again and just say, can you confirm what your water rate study is? I did bring that as well, which calls for 11.25% increases year over year to pay for this debt. And she did also confirm that that was the increase on July 1st, was 11.25. So with that being said, one is I have to come back to our rating person and let her know that I was incorrect and it's 11.25 year over year, but also whether it's affordable to issue this much debt and continue to increase the residents' bills for water by that amount year over year to pay for it, and whether they're gonna look back at saying the city doesn't have the ability to pay with water rates, and therefore we are gonna have to issue taxes to do so. So I guess just long story short is just as the debt profile increases that much, then they're gonna look at our ability to pay and potentially look at degrading that part of the rating for the debt profile.
So you mean it will decrease our bond rating then? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's weighted 1/5 is your overall debt profile and the city's ability to pay for the amount of debt that you carry. Economy is one piece of it, your reserves, they look at your management policies and practices. There's lots of different aspects, but 20% is on the debt and obligations.
And right now our rating is,
It's a AA stable is what we're at going
Yep.
into this call. The committee is going to meet on Tuesday to actually rate the bonds for the public safety building.
okay.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm curious, so they said that given the rate schedule, that that HPU will not be able to pay back the financing.
No, they didn't say that, so they're just asking just strictly questions. So they asked me what are the projected rate increases needed to cover the debt, based off your rate study, because I mean, they're looking at making sure that management is following good practices towards making sure they can pay back the debt. So I had said yes, that the PUC did conduct a rate study. They said, what were the rate studies in there? So then I was trying to think back to when we had that joint meeting around the time the rate study was conducted. I said I thought it was about 5% year over year. That I would get back to them after the call. And then that's where the study came out to say it was 11.25% year over year. And then whether that, I wanted to also confirm that that takes into account the entire CIP that the PUC is planning to do for water infrastructure. And that it would in fact be paid back with rates and not taxes.
Yeah, so I think that's really difficult because we don't have a CIP in place for all the numbers you're talking about, which is really bad to talk to the bond council or that S&P about that, in my opinion. That's bad.
Say that again?
It's really bad. Did you discuss these numbers with them?
No,
Is
we
that-
did
Oh,
not.
okay, that's what.
No,
No,
just
no,
strictly
no,
the
no,
rate
no.
study and
Okay.
how much the
No, no.
projected rate increases would need to be.
Okay,
And
that
that's a-
had me panicking for a
And that's a
second.
good
Like, that's-
point, and,
okay.
and just so the city council knows, they drive the discussion.
Yeah,
But no, we didn't offer
Okay.
that up. That's a good question.
Okay.
No, we didn't. So, and this is Jesse's role here coming up. So why this? Because coincidentally, we had a joint meeting, staff meeting that is, trying to plan out projects for 26 and beyond, which we should. And I fully support that, and we should continue to do that because there's economies of scale, and it's important that we all know what's going on the utility side and on the city side. But because now our rating company is starting to raise eyebrows on, okay, so in the event of what happens, I am seriously concerned about our rating, the ability to borrow money at a competitive rate, and also the overall position of the HPU.
So given the landscape there and the way that we are able to fund water projects, we can't get certain grants and funding for projects until we have certain rates and essentially not enough money to pay for those things. So what we're trying to, and maybe Luke can explain this better, but what we're trying to accomplish is being able to utilize that low interest financing now to build projects. We do have to raise rates, and our initial study with I believe it was Bolton and Mink that brought the rate study with them previously with the state, I think it was, that said we have to have our rates at a certain one, or we should be raising them X% over however many years to get to the point where we can acquire other funding, so then we're not paying the same level of interest and whatever else. We can be eligible for grants. So I understand there's a question there. Can we do it without getting to that level of spending all that money to make us poor enough to where we can get grants? It's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting because Pete and I were having a conversation right before this meeting tonight about kicking the can down the road. And HPU had done that historically, and we can't kick this water system down the road anymore.
And I concur with that. And we're not asking
Yep, no,
anybody to do that. We want our people to have core services, including water. I mean, it's pretty close to the top. We
Yeah,
also
this-
want to be able to be sustainable. We also don't want to go and have to declare bankruptcy and default on loans. I think that's a real thing. I look at these numbers, and that's what I see, the
Yeah.
possibilities there. And you're right, you have to be really poor to be able to get free money. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to run up the bill so far that we get free money. I don't think that's a good play.
Yeah, no, and I preface that too. I agree. So I mean, I'd like Mr. Peterson to weigh in on it if that's okay, just so we have a understanding of where
It'd
we're
be up
at.
to the mayor.
I'll recognize you. Luke? Yep.
Thank you, Pete.
Counselors, thank you very much for your time, and as always, there's so much going on in Hibbing right now. It's pretty exciting to be a part of this, and something you should all be very proud of. One of that, obviously, is the utility. We have a lot going on. Water, first and foremost. I think we all talked about that, the crisis in Flint, Michigan, and how the kicking the can down the road ended up getting it to be to a certain spot. And I do have some experience with rating agencies. I was part of the team at Minnesota Power that brought the corporate credit rating from BBB+ negative outlook up to A-. Obviously, it's not a tax-exempt issuer, but that was pretty good. So I do have quite a bit of experience on how rated agencies look at. And they look at this thing called collateral, and that is what you guys have as your general obligation backstop, which is basically a second backstop. It's like getting a mortgage. The mortgage house is the PUC's water revenues. This is an additional amount of collateral that is guaranteeing the mortgage on the house, which is already the collateral for the loan. It's like you put your cabin up on the block as well as a secondary. The one big thing we did, and why it took so long between the resolution the council passed in April of '24 to now, is we were able to restructure to shield the City of Hibbing GO pledge to be a much smaller piece of the face value. If you remember last time I stood before you and talked about issuing debt, it was back in early 2023, where the city was actually the issuer. In this case, the GO pledge is for a much smaller amount, and that's just to maintain a bank account that has 12 months of principal and interest. And yes, I can conceivably see over time if if it was doomsday scenario that annual bank account guarantee could be used as an excuse or a way to say you have to pay the whole thing. That is simply not practically true in the way the double collateral system works. And the face value of that GO pledge is only 10% of the note. And in that you're only, the geo obligation is a very, very small piece. And that's something that we did, spent a lot of time working with the PFA to put that structure in place. Now, Hibbing and the city of St. Paul are the only two places that issue debt in that way through the PFA, and that is a net savings of the bond rating. And I offered to Greg yesterday, I'd be very happy to talk to S&P about this. I have a lot of experience working with bond rating agencies, so.
Which, by the way, please do not do that. I asked you specifically.
Absolutely.
Do not call our rating agency.
Yes, and I will, obviously, I will go through you, just like I'd expect you to go through me before sharing a capital improvement plan. So, let's talk about how do we actually fund the debt service, okay? The way we fund the debt service is by increasing depreciation on our system, by building the assets. And that depreciation, by the new projects we put in every year, comes out as, yes, rates have to increase to cover the depreciation, but that depreciation from those new assets is basically paying for the assets through the financing. And there's a couple things that's very important about this PFA debt structure. If you recall, when Mayor Hajduk got the award letter back from the first financing in 2023, there was $1 million worth of savings of interest costs for that loan. It was written on the award letter versus market financing. So if you apply that $1 million of savings to the whole capital improvement plan over the next few years here, that's over $3 million of interest savings that goes to the ratepayers. And all while the public utilities has been very responsible, and the commission's been we've been very fortunate. No one likes increasing rates, but an 11% increase for a residential homeowner ended up being about $3 a month. And so with all of that, you know, the commission has been doing the right things. And as you can see from the debt profile here through 2027, we expect to continue to have depreciation fund the debt service. And the other thing I put on here is just a debt compliance certificate that we issued in May to the Director of Finance Office, where we actually confirm that we're in compliance with the covenants that we've agreed to in the City Council and PUC resolutions. That is where we've vouched in that officially that we are at 2 times the coverage ratio for the required debt service reserve. That is the control the council has to make sure that there is enough funds in that debt service reserve account for the maintenance of that account. And so by managing the amount of funds that are in there and making the Public Utilities Commission guarantee that there's money in that account is a way of managing that risk to nil.
So I have a question just about that, just to get back to what Sheena had said. S&P seems to believe that they still have the right to just say this still counts anyways. And what you're saying counteracts that?
Yes, and the S&P does, as Greg had said, get to make the call. They also need very strong pointed arguments and explanations of why in understanding the double barrel aspect of the collateral. The practical matter is the revenue guarantees of the utility stand in the first place of collateral, just like if you have a mortgage on your home, that's the home, utility revenues. The GO pledges in the event that the home can't be sold, in the event there's not enough revenue in there, the GO could step in. But before that, the resolution as written documents the requirement for the public utilities to notify the city council in advance of that. So this isn't all just gonna happen and we're gonna be surprised. There's a lot of communications, the Director of Finance making sure that the public utilities is regularly reporting the coverage ratios in that debt service reserve, as well as having the regular annual check-ins on how things are going, making sure the reserve account is full, is the guarantee that's needed. And oftentimes there's additional, what had worked in the past, in my past experience with S&P, was a letter of credit undrawn that could stand in place of the GO, even if it's just between the public utilities and the commission, as another mechanism of mitigating that risk. At the end of the day, there's many ways to get there. S&P just needs to be dealt with directly and with authority on how these bonds and double collateral actually
What would that
works.
other line of credit be? Lou?
The other line of credit would have to be basically, in the case that I'm referring to, and again, I haven't spoken with
Yeah.
S&P on this particular topic, so this is how it works, is if you have basically a letter of credit at a bank and you say, here, this is for the city of Hibbing, in the event there isn't enough utility, the public utilities and the city agree that this letter of credit is a permanent letter of credit that can be used to be drawn on to guarantee the GO pledge. So there's many ways beyond all this. The issue is that you just have to mitigate it and manage the risk so that it doesn't impact your overall bond rating. And that is very important to maintain that high. And with the economic situation that we're in, you know, that's where there is a lot of risk. And I imagine as the economy would continue to go down, that'll be a big drag on the city's bond rating. So the things that we're doing to make sure there is a future of the economy are going to be very helpful and very proactive. And rating agencies love nothing more than a plan, and a financing plan in particular. So,
Greg, you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Chair, Mr. Peterson, so I know that you're trying to water it down, and I know you're trying to like demonstrate, you're trying to mitigate our risk, which is certainly part of this conversation. But I think what you're doing is missing the point. The point is S&P is telling us, they're setting off an alarm that they're worried about the overall debt load. It's not the amount that we're on the hook for, it's the overall. That's the piece I think that you're missing, and that's what you're trying to water down. When I look at some of these numbers, I don't think it's sustainable, and that's not the conversation that's happening.
So I'm just gonna jump in there. I don't think you have any ability to say that the numbers aren't sustainable. You're looking at numbers that don't exist yet. This is a first draft of preliminary projects that could happen that we have not budgeted for and have not put ground to.
And that's fair,
Okay.
but it's gonna be something.
You're right. I'm not saying we shouldn't discuss this, but what I'm saying is I get the tenor that the city council is gonna be asked to consider to not go forward with the $6.5 million support of this because of this. And I don't think that's a good move. I'm only one person, and I'm also on the other governing body, so I get where my position is. But I think you're putting this in front of that conversation, and that is not a fair position to put us in.
I'm not putting it in front of, I'm making it part of, and it should be.
It should.
And that's what's missing.
Yes.
And, Commissioner, we talked about it yesterday. I didn't say I was going to promote it, or
Yep.
I wasn't gonna promote it. I mean, I know the money's been spent, that's gonna come up here shortly, we gotta have the money, it's been spent, et cetera. The vacuum is the global and where it's going. That's the warning sign that I heard from S&P yesterday, and if I'm wrong, please, Sheena, say so, or Candy was in that meeting, others were in that meeting. It's in a vacuum, and what happens in a vacuum is there's an incremental increase and an incremental increase, and pretty soon you're at $20 million, $21 million. And I don't think our people I don't think they can afford it.
I agree. That still stands the question, who up here is gonna stand there and kick that can down the road?
And I'm not saying that we should kick it down.
We're being posed with the same problem at the city as we are at the utility. This is work that has to be done at some point. I'm not saying we have to do it all in this schedule, because we didn't discuss this. So what I'm saying is I think there's questions being asked that are fair questions. I think there's doubt being placed that is unfair because nobody's had this conversation yet.
And that's a fair statement. But also, I would be remiss in my job if I didn't bring this forward to the city council. I would not be able to sleep at night.
Well, I disagree.
kinda
This shouldn't have been brought today.
And you know what? If I would have known this was not for public consumption, I would have just given a high-level overview of it,
Yeah.
so it's not out there. And I'll probably collect these after the meeting. But the point is, the conversation doesn't happen from that higher level. Where are we going? what is our liability? That was a conversation that we had yesterday. So maybe if you would, Mr. Commissioner, would you pose that same question to Sheena? I think you posed it at the last meeting.
Well, yeah, just the liability if there's default.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we understand what the liability is that the city is the second guarantor on the financing. I mean, that's everybody, I think everybody basically understands how collateral or a cosigner works.
And in this example, it's 6.5 million. In the event of a default, how much do we pay?
Well, whatever hasn't been paid.
Well, and if I could, there is still an operating utility, and for the
Correct.
record.
That's where I was
Yeah,
going
for-
next.
For the record, there has never been a default on tax exempt debt in the state of Minnesota. Let me just be clear. So this has not happened yet. That's not to say it couldn't. But if it did, what happens first is the Public Utilities Commission has to notify the council that it can't do this. But the proactive way is for the Public Utilities Commission and the city finance director making sure that Public Utilities Commission is always funding that debt service reserve. And then if that service reserve is always flush, there is no GO obligation.
Service reserve, where is it at?
The debt service reserve is co-owned right now between the city of Hibbing and Public Utilities at the 4M fund.
At
And-
how much?
At the 4M fund, at the 4M.
He's asking how much is in it.
Oh, how much is in it right now?
Yeah.
As of the, I actually have the, is it on the sheet right there? 626,000 is enough to cover, at this time, the next 12 months of principal and interest payments. So for every $1 million of debt, there's an additional 10% of coverage that needs to be added into that account, so that you always have the savings account to pay the principal and interest.
Just adding on what Mr. Councilor Bayless had said, I just had my Rams mayor's meeting today, and we were talking about a lot of the components we're talking about today and kicking a can. I mean, all our infrastructure is 80 years old, and it's too bad because a lot of preventive maintenance hadn't been done for many, many years, not just in the city of Hibbing, but in all cities, as I hear the mayors talk about it. And I know it's just how far do you kick the can down the street every time? I mean, what's the balance you need of moving forward without putting too much risk on the city or on the HPU?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the conversation I hear here, is I know we have a great bond rating because our city has been responsible for years and we don't want to lose that. At what level of debt is the city council going to be comfortable of supporting the HPU, because we have supported you? And that's the answer, that's the question I see. Where do we get the numbers of how much we need to move forward with? You know, we're looking at, what, 6.5, I think it is on the PF. Should it be 4.5? I mean, if SP, right?
S&P Global.
Yeah, if they're concerned, I guess I'd like to hear more from them also.
And I also would love to hear from S&P too, and I've considered the Public Utilities getting its own rating as well, just so that we can help differentiate the difference between the two.
So-
And
Yeah.
there will be at a time that's makes sense.
And it's tough because we are the councils, not just Hibbing, but every city in the country that's dealing with the same issue of aged infrastructure that we're upgrading. You know, a generation from now, they're not gonna have these conversations because everything will be updated. They're gonna have it easy, but we have the tough decisions right now.
I guess for me though, you know, we talk about what the city and then the PUC, what can the ratepayer
Yes.
truly afford when it comes down to it? And I think that's, for me, one of the bottom lines. What can they actually afford?
That's the balancing act.
That's right.
That's the balancing act. Yes.
Kind of on that same point, I know we talk about the city and the HPU and, well, we're gonna mitigate the city's risk and, you know, there's all these checks and balances, and I just want the city council, Jamie as a commissioner, Luke, I don't look at it as, fine, you guys go your own way and do whatever. I don't look at it that way. And I think that's the point that you're trying to make, Counselor, is this is our community and these are our people and they can only afford so much. And if it's too aggressive, they can't afford it. in addition to, and I'm sure you all read the newspaper last week, the annual meeting the IRRR had, I think the quote was troubled waters ahead, something to that effect. We have got to be very sensitive to this community if we want to survive.
So I agree with you 100%. And on that note, there's a reason why there is so much water capital in front of us. How much have we spent in the last 4 years on emergency water fixes on water main jobs?
Over $75,000 per leak usually.
Per leak. That's not including the belt line mains, it's not
That's
including the
right.
one on the 30-inch main.
And-
We're talking millions of dollars of
Yeah.
projects that we didn't plan, that weren't budgeted, that we had to fix because this is old. So I think there's some, I think you're right, but I also think by not doing as much as we can do aggressively and within our means, I 100% agree. I think we have to weigh both of those at the same time. How much are we spending on keeping this old stuff going?
And if I could add just one thing, about 50% of a typical water project is street, curb, and gutter, and sidewalk. So, of the dollars that are here, a lot of this isn't just in the pipe, in the ground. So.
Or storals, yeah.
That's another big aspect. If you haven't been down 17th Street by First Avenue and Fifth Avenue down there where Nick just finished the latest water main project, it's a different neighborhood over there. And, you know, that means something. I guarantee you that the market rate for those homes just went up because they got new curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and brand new pavement. And that helps tax base, so.
And,
I got a couple questions.
yes, somebody else.
Counselor Fossil?
Yeah. There's a ton of numbers in front of me right now, so, I just want to be clear in my own head, kind of what we're looking at here. So, we're looking at our bond rating as we're going out for the safety center funding, correct? And in meeting in that bond rating, this SP Global, you said they had raised eyebrows over the debt that the public utility is going to take with our partnership over the next 12 months.
Yeah, they ask about future financing generally within the next 12 months.
So
They didn't go
it's
into-
just the 12 months, so it's just column 20, the first column of this page, or it was 6 million or 6.5?
It's what's existing already plus the 6.5.
Okay. And in the result that the public utilities was to not be able to pay the full 6 million, 6.5 million, we would be at default as the city to pay that. If the public utilities came to us today and said, hey, guess what? We have no more ratepayers, we have no more income, you guys are on the hook. That would be the worst case scenario, right? Because we would be after their ability to make revenue. Now, I completely look at the rest of these numbers, I look at the future and know that there's a lot more that needs to be done. But that 6.5 million, that would still keep us under our maximum ability to take out bonds, correct?
So I guess there's two different pieces to that. So statutorily, the city can't issue strictly GO-backed bonds that don't have any other revenue source, such as water revenues like Luke is doing. You can't issue more than 3% of your estimated market value. Now, if it's backed by other revenues such as water, tax increment financing, anything else, then it doesn't count towards that margin. So you can still issue that debt. But that doesn't mean when they do your rating that they're not going to look at your ability to pay and then rate the bonds accordingly based off of things like your economy and your debt profile. And they look at the public utilities, even they have a 2005 revenue bond that they have one more payment left on. That has to be reported in our preliminary official statement. Because the PUC is a component unit of the city, they look at it as if they went under at any point in time and couldn't pay, the city is their parent. The city will have to pay. So they're looking at all of our debt and how much we can afford to pay back when they're gonna go out to market and say, how much will you bid on these bonds?
So if, in this case, if we say, you know what, we're not going to support this route, we don't want you to take out the 6.5 million in this way, the public utilities can still go out to the market and get some sort of loan, and we would still be on the hook for it, but at a higher interest rate.
Well,
That's correct.
Yeah, well, does that work that way, or would the utility be on the hook for it at a
Well,
higher
I mean,
interest rate?
it's,
In the end, we're
the way
we're the
you.
parent is what I'm saying.
Yeah, as the parent, you're still responsible in that for what the utility does. So yes, you would still be on the hook for the same amount at a higher rate.
So for whatever the public utility takes out regardless. So I think one thing that we do need to look at is, I think to Greg's point, is when you start adding up a lot of these numbers over the next 5 to 7 years, that is a lot of debt. And we need to figure out how we can protect the city, how we can protect the ratepayers, I think to Jennifer's comment.
You know, we're looking at 6.5 next year, but then it's 11.5 in '27. So I mean, and, you know, and then on and on and on. At what point are we maxed out?
Right, and that's an excellent question, Mayor, and that's something that I think, you know, the public utilities obviously has a big interest in making sure the city of Hibbing maintains a very high bond rating. Let me be clear. There's at no point do we want to put that in jeopardy. This isn't this is, everyone's in this together, to Administrator Brzezinski's point. The issue that I see is there is a complicated, very common structure but very efficient in the PFA loan that's very low cost. And as structured with the GO pledge only on the debt service reserve account, that should shield that GO and minimize the incremental impact of the 6.5 million to only 650,000 of a reduction of the net GO capacity versus the previous loans that we've worked together on. And again, they've been very effective because they've already saved quite a bit of money for the community members of Hibbing. Having that right financial strategy, and I think that's what we're talking about here, is a joint financial strategy to maintain the highest debt rating you can for the city of Hibbing, of which the public utilities wants to help. And by structuring this debt this way, you know, there is significant advantages to helping the city's bond rating.
So I
Or
have
should be.
a question, because I'm getting a conflicted message now. So the 600,000 you're saying is the only part that is GO pledged,
Yes.
but it doesn't sound like S&P cares, right? Is that what you're picking up?
That's what we,
That's what I picked up.
So, I mean, how do we have that discussion, or how do we solve that? Because that was part of this decision, you know what I mean, why we were trying to use this strategy. And if we got an answer previously that is no longer the answer, we need to dig that out. And I don't know who does that, but
my thought is this: instead of digging that out, why don't we have a less aggressive capital improvement plan that we can afford over time
sure.
and implement, not just on the utility side, but the city side has needs as well. I mean, we could flail for a year trying to figure that out, going to S&P and making our case. I think the point is to have an affordable capital plan. I mean, we're gonna be having some difficult discussions and decisions with our city council in the next 12 months on the city's capital plan and financial plan, which, I mean, are similar numbers. And what's our strategy? I mean, we all know what we've been doing, right? We're trying to quantify and capture every single thing that we have, get it on paper, and then we start to push it down because you back into the affordability. What's the number over the next 25 years? Can you afford it? And then you can't, so you push it out, right? Life cycle on a vehicle. Is it 5 years or 10 years? It's probably 12 or better. So make good decisions, right? Same on buildings. That's why deferred maintenance is so difficult. And that's what we're talking about, right? Whether it's a water pipe, a building, whatever it happens to be. So that's the affordability piece that I think we should be pursuing and putting all of our efforts to.
Yeah, so, and I think we're both on the same page. I think everybody at HPU agrees, and that's why we're starting the process of putting this together.
Thanks for bringing it
No,
up
and I'm not
again.
trying to throw that in your face at all, I apologize, I really am not, we haven't developed this yet.
If you have to
so-
say it.
Right.
No, but that's, I guess I'm saying is we
No,
haven't developed
I
it, so
know.
you're right,
Yeah.
and I agree with you 100%. And and just so everybody else knows, I'm not trying to argue Mr. Brzezinski's point. I'm trying to make it very, very clear that these projects are very needed, and stopping a project like that or stopping funding for projects like this puts us in a different position on that side. So while I don't disagree, we should be having more conversations about this, we should be very careful. I am taking a little bit of a defensive position because this was here, and that's why. So I apologize for my demeanor on that document, but I didn't get to see it before I sat down here today.
And I'll say this, I'll apologize one more time. I never would have done that to you as the commissioner, the commission, or the general manager, had I known or thought about it maybe. At the end of the day, this is exactly what we should be doing. So it's not a criticism of that. Up to and including the meeting that Jesse had with HPU and your consulting engineer on planning projects, 26, 27, and on out. It's just time for us to have the conversation.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
the yesterday's S&P meeting was a catalyst for that. And I know there was questions at our last meeting about it, so I thought, you know what, let's take a couple of minutes, have the conversation, and maybe now's a good time to talk about the pathway forward when it comes to this resolution ask. And maybe, Pete, if you want to take the meeting over again and ask for any final questions, and then we'll talk about that pathway forward.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, it's been great conversation today. I think very informative from different points of view. You know, I know we do have, we're coming up, is it our next council meeting? Or we have a HEDA meeting, and we also have a joint meeting with HPU, a working session. You know, which I think timeliness-wise, it's probably good timing, so that we can have more open dialogue regarding with all commissioners and what is the time frame, I ask, on this PFA loan?
Well, we first had council approval to apply for the loan in April of 2024. So we're a year and a half delayed. And part of that was working with PFA Bond Council to restructure the note so that it does have the GO pledge only on the debt service reserve account. So time is of the essence, and we do want to do this very soon. It was on the agenda tonight. It wasn't until 5 o'clock last night that I heard, after you had talked to Commissioner Bayless, and I said, let's get on the phone with S&P and be able to talk about this, because there is a way to play offense with the rating agencies.
We don't need to talk to S&P.
And Greg, I'm not.
You just did.
No, I said we could, okay? So we could. I haven't called them yet, and I won't without your approval. So we're gonna, there is a way to go on offense. And we're very happy and very good timing to have you welcome the City Council to the Public Utilities Commission meeting on the 14th.
Right. All right, I think we've had a lot of, again, detailed discussion here from different points of view, and I have one question. At what point for HPU, Luke, can you come up there one more time? Sorry about that.
Trying to let you take over the meeting again.
No, and I'll do that, but I just said at what point is enough debt enough debt?
Yeah.
Meaning, I'm not against, we know we gotta move forward, and I mentioned the old kicking the can down the road, but there's still balance.
Right.
At what point do we say we need to get from A to B before we go from B to C? And what level of debt is that? I mean, what is your thought process, your commission's thought process on moving forward? And again, not even using this sheet.
Right.
It gives me a reference, but since it's not a finished document, but there's still some big numbers.
Right.
And regardless if it's on a sheet or not, there's big numbers, because we're a big city.
Right.
So, you know, at what point do we just say, hey, let's get what we can get done and let's hit our worst areas first? And then pick and choose where we have to do some major, you know, just having a slip lining underneath the golf course was huge. I mean, those are slip lining and I think they can also do lining like we do with our waste also. I mean, so we are trying to save money with technology, there's no doubt about it.
We just did
But
that on 41st.
back to my final question. At what point is enough debt? If this goes through as 20.7,
Yeah.
what is enough debt at one point to manage for the HPU before you have to back off
Yeah.
and say, let's complete something, build some collateral, before we move forward?
I'm gonna try to answer this very simply, and the first answer is the commission is doing strategic planning this year, and in that strategic plan, there will be targeted financial goals. Right now, we are benchmarking against American Public Power Association's average for municipal utilities, which is a debt ratio of about 50%. So that's within the utilities capitalization itself, a debt ratio of about 50%. And that debt is always lowest cost financing versus what is not debt or equity or net position or whatever we call it in government accounting. So debt is always lowest cost versus equity. So that's the optimal cap structure for the industry in average. That might, the way it works out though for each utility, like right now there's zero debt on the gas utility, a very small amount right now on the electric utility, and none on the steam utility, and we're loading up the water utility. And that's in part due to the very low cost and the extremely efficient financing through the PFA that exists. And a lot of that is due to the IRA tax and job credit bill that provided all this federal money for clean water infrastructure. So we're making hay while the sun shines. The government just shut down today. I don't know how this funding stream from the federal side will keep flowing over the years to come. That will likely change the PFA's dynamics, which will likely say, so the long answer is water has been the cheapest debt. Unlike other issues, there's no origination cost. Like the 1% you typically pay on face value debt, that none, it's taken care of. So this, we have to be opportunistic on the debt. So long story short, strategic plan will identify that in concrete. Right now, we're targeting industry averages of 50% debt ratio. And then in the short term, we are maintaining and complying with the debt service reserve covenants we've guaranteed already to make sure we have the P&I saved up to pay so that the city GO never has to be there.
Okay. Any questions or responses to that?
Still don't know the answer.
Okay. Anyways, thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. So we'll move on to roundtable. Mr. Krasinski.
I'm good for the evening, thank you.
Steve?
Just wanted to update Councilor Whitney and the rest of the council. Had a discussion today, myself and Mr. Story with Lincoln. Obviously, it's not going to be a great resolution, but the biggest issue we are seeing is when they're doing the parent drop-off, they're dropping them off right at the cafeteria door, which there's a whole stretch of road still available to drop the kids off. So they're gonna put a cone there, paint the sidewalk, and for a couple weeks, I'm gonna actually sit out there and direct traffic like I did the other day. Not that I wanna do that, but, and then they also called Upper Lake Foods and told them do not deliver food at 7:30 in the morning when they do parent drop-off. So that'll help. And then Jesse actually has hopefully a long-term plan for next year with some curb and gutter stuff to look at, possibly extending a parking lane or whatever you call it. So we made some headway today, hopefully, and then also we don't want people dropping kids off on 24th, so I'll be addressing that as well.
What was their reasoning from switching it from?
So they were having, what was happening was you'd have a car come into the parking lot, and then you'd have another car that would come on the inside lane. This kid would get out and they were almost getting ran over. So that's why they put the buses there now, to go through there. Yeah, it's a nightmare around there. So hopefully, moving them down to almost 23rd for the drop-off, that's gonna open up a lot, because they were backed all the way up to 25th the last couple days.
Well, yeah, my kids go there, so I go there every
Yeah.
morning, and sometimes you're in a logjam on 25th, just trying to turn, and
To
did
turn.
that accident last week, because
Yep.
I'm always sitting there waiting to get plowed into, because that sun is right there in your
Right.
face, and it's just a recipe for
So hopefully
disaster.
this at least helps us, navigate, and then, we'll reevaluate in a couple of weeks, but.
And the complaints from, Andy, you live down there, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Constant driveways getting blocked. People just, no matter how many times you tell them, they still do it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure those residents are,
Just don't leave your house between 7:30 and
Yep, correct.
don't do.
well, I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, well, hopefully it helps.
Thank you, Steve.
Just
Ms.
a quick-
Zeppelin?
Yep, just a quick question. Jesse, do you know when the 9th Avenue and 23rd corner will be completed?
Yeah, I was gonna cover that on the roundtable.
I'll let
so-
you handle that
No,
then later.
we can talk about it right now.
Okay, it's
So
just,
they-
I get calls, so I just,
Yep. They paved the concrete base today
I seen
in the
it.
intersection, so that has to sit for at least 7 days. We do a 7-day break on the concrete. If it meets strength, then we'll pave it. So I'm hoping mid to end of next week, we'll blacktop that. And then we can open it up and we'll stripe it and paint it and do it all in one shot. So hopeful that within 2 weeks, it should look pretty much complete.
perfect, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Bayless?
I've talked enough.
Mr. Fossil?
I'm good.
I just, one update on our Public Works building. Could Jesse or someone just give us a quick synopsis where we're at?
So, Mayor, Council, we do have a meeting tomorrow, every Thursday out there, every Monday morning. So, the end of this week or beginning of next week, they'll start installing the sanitary sewer service for the new building, going straight north to the edge of the parking lot.
Okay,
And then it looks like next week, they're gonna start the building demo.
okay.
The power has been hooked up, it's been transferred, everything's good there, new transformers in, old transformers out. So yeah, once we see that demo and we start, seeing the panels delivered, I think that part will go pretty quick.
Okay. So tip-up building is what we got coming in, so they'll just need, once demo, they'll have to have their foundation footings in and tip up.
There might be some soil correction there.
Yep.
Then we'll do footings and do the slab tip-ups.
Thank you for that update.
On that same.
Yes,
I've been meaning to ask this question on the public safety building. How often would you like us to report in on that? I know every meeting's probably a little bit much. Once a month?
yeah.
Do you want
I
an
think once a
email?
month would be nice, because they
Okay.
should be moving fairly quick now.
Okay,
That's why I brought it up, because we haven't talked about it in front
Yeah.
of the public like this.
right.
And it's nice to hear where we're at.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. And then, I think our construction manager is going to do, are they doing a camera out there, or are they doing a time lapse? I can't remember.
They did talk about a live stream camera out there. We can ask them tomorrow. I
Yep.
don't know where that landed.
Yeah, could you make a note of that?
Yep.
Live stream would be pretty neat. I
Yeah,
think
that'd be
people would
sweet.
love that.
That'd be neat.
Be awesome.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm just gonna turn in my report here, this document here, so I can have the last word on the conversation. There you go.
All right.
Did the
Counselor Whitney?
agendas issue ever get fixed, Candy, or agendas for all the meetings up and running yet?
Yeah, I think the only ones are the, planning commission.
The one the person was asking for?
I know. So they can just call Tina and she'll send them to them.
Are they ever gonna be on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And Hildebrand? Mr. Story? Mr. Barlin?
Yes.
With that, everybody have a good day.
Thank you.